Well, this is the finale. This is what Season 10 has been all about. In an institution which you can argue has been a mainstay of RaceSpotTV for the foreseeable future, for the discernible past, and in this present, you would say that there is still a lot at stake for a lot of drivers here today. It's Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It is 39 laps in an endurance special for this, the final round of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. Next. Welcome to Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The final round of a championship already decided by Mr. Iron de Freighter, but certainly not one that is going to be lacking any action in the final stages of the season. Season 10 on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live has been sensational. We've seen winner after winner after winner after chicken dinner that we have seen. And you know what? I'm hashtag you mind Jake Sperry, and I'm going to enjoy every single moment of this final race of the season. Joined alongside me for this one, Cameron Walsh joining me for this one, and of course Paul Smith behind the cameras as well. Qualifying currently underway here, Cam. The first driver who will set a lap time will be the 226 machine of Anthony Kant.
Yeah, and I'm sure once the times do start pouring in, they will. We'll get a really good handle on it. Practice times were extraordinarily close. I mean, that's no surprise there. I mean, you can't get outside of the top 20 without finding a second between all these guys. So once these times do start ticking in, we'll get a very good look at them as they go around this Montreal circuit.
And well, the championship standings are in de Freighter 460, Philippe Lebert, shall I say, 424. Championship was wrapped up last round, well, the round before that actually, at the Circuit of the Americas, not at Snetterton, but de Freighter didn't finish that race and would score 0 points. But even though there's bonus points on offer for every 3 laps that you lead, you are always looking at the championship. It's just a bit too far for Philippe Lebert. Justin Tipton currently the man on pole position right now, 153.410, as the times will start rattling in here as Johnny Gowindi of the Evolution Racing team will make his charge to the line. And will he set a lap time? Nope, he's going on to start his first lap of the event. And well, everyone now just thinking here that track position is going to be key for an endurance race here today, Cam. An hour and a half there or thereabouts, 39 laps of action. And 39 laps does take its toll on you to stop today.
Yeah, and on top of that, we got to remember, obviously, with this being a single-make car series, things get always extraordinarily tight. You can multiply that times over by the fact that this is a 2K World Cup Series event. So you know that the competition is going to be all hands here today at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. But either way, I will say, it is going to be no surprise that these drivers, when they get done, are going to be tired. A lot of these races always come down to the wire, and with how long these guys are going to be in these Skip Barber 2K cars, it is going to be exciting to say the least. Hopefully we don't have anything too dramatic happen.
Well, that will hopefully not be the case. Philippe Lebert across the line, 154 flat, only goes position number 7, surprising for Mr. 2K World Cup, Carl Dronke, making his first charge then to the line in the number 10 machine. And let's see where Carl Dronke can place himself then in this 27 driver field today. 154 flat as well. That's the 4th row alongside Philippe Lebert. That's a great qualifying time for Carl Dronke as the second lap start coming in. Andrew Picario up to 2nd position. Great qualifying from the 168. Greg Seitz now up into that 2nd position.
Yeah, I was going to say, Andrew Picario in practice, he put in a 153.709, and for his qualifying time, it was a 153.562, so he managed to shave off 2/10 between his practice time and his qualifying time. And but you got to remember, though, the highest qualifying time that we had in practice was a 153.1. We'll see who can get near there. Philippe Lebert, he was the one that posted that lap in practice. Justin Timpton is the one that put it in qualifying. However, there seems to be a pretty massive gap between Justin Timpton and the rest of the field.
Johnny Guindi up into position number 3, and you're right, there's 0.3 of a second between Tipton and anybody else. Mark Chorley in the 945 will make his last gasp charge to the line on his second and final lap here. 154.5 improves to the 9th row of the grid, position 18 overall, and eyes to Philippe Lebert as he makes the run to the final chicane, the Wall of Champions, on the outside of said chicane right now. And what has to be said in this situation is that Philippe Lebert has been bundled down the order, now on the 7th row in 13th, heavy over the anti-cut curbs 1 and 2. You've got to be careful about the suspension on these vehicles. It is not as sturdy as one may think. Drives to the line for Lebert then, Cam, and he goes from a 54.8 to a 53.2. Front row Lebert.
Yeah, and here comes a couple of other cars. Here comes Edwin Villarino. He is on his very first qualifying lap. He's the only car that has not put in a qualifying time. His practice time is a 153.273. He'll get a 153.821, though he's got a second lap to do around this circuit. I feel like he's one of the only cars that are actually on their second lap of these front-running cars, but great lap from Philippe Lebert.
Yeah, certainly was. Greg Seitz drives to the line. He does a 52.9. He breaks the barrier of 153. Greg Seitz has just put in the lap of the gods to put himself and the TT Racing machine on pole position. What a lap time that is, but Johnny Guindi can set this one up and wrap this one back. He needs half a second on the driver of Greg Seitz, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it. He does a 53 flat, but it's not good enough. It would have been good enough. He would be looking at his relative thinking it was, but in the end, it would not be the lap that he'd want. And so now we focus on Edwin Villarino, just in the 118 machine, as he makes his run through this second chicane. Always very difficult here. The right and the left, very much a momentum-based corner here on this circuit. And Cam, he's now heading towards this dreaded hairpin, which is the prime overtaking opportunity out on circuit.
Yeah, it's got a name. It starts with an L, there's an apostrophe. It starts with an E, it's a La Pingle or something like that. I don't know. But either way, the big thing I think that's actually the trick with this hairpin is not necessarily the entry or the middle apex, it's the exit, because you've got that massive green space just to the left there where you've got to straighten your car out. And if you don't get a good exit, you are not going to have a good run down towards corners 13, 14.
Well, at least it doesn't have a weird O in it. That's all I can say about that at the moment. But
yeah, apostrophes over it. Oh.
Ugh, you know, it's always very difficult. And Villarino straight over the final chicane, messed it up, just brushes the Wall of Champions as well. And that will be lap dead and done. Everybody then has finished their qualifying laps out on circuit. This is how the grid will stand. Greg Seitz, pole position, the only man to break the 153 barrier, 152.954. He's ahead of Johnny Guindi in second position for the Evolution Racing team. Justin Tipton will share the second row with the Mr. 2K World Cup man himself, Philippe Lebert. Brian Dewell, the only last survivor of positive sim racing, will start fifth. Andrew Picario alongside sixth, with Christopher Cash, Stephen Stoyles, Carl Dronke, and Enzo Cantor rounding out the top 10 for Thrustmaster Movano. Edwin Villarino will start from 11th, with Mick Watson alongside, good qualifying for him in 12th. Francois Boulian, the new Orion Race Team driver, in 13th, with Diogo Francisco. Russell Clark and James McCritchie will make up row 8. Row 9 will be Anthony Catt and Adam Blocker, an IndyCar specialist, with Richard Warmingham and Mark Chorley rounding out the top 20. And looking back for the final 7 vehicles, Nick Sidgley, Andreas Robertson, Rob Adams, Steve Leverly, Matthew Willett, Hans Hoyer, and John Morgan round out this field. 2 minutes to get yourself gridded up, or you start from the dreaded place that is known as Pit Road. And all eyes turn to the swarm of TT racing machines at the front. 3 of them inside of the top 4 here today, and that's going to be a big challenge for the sole Evolution Racing Team machine of Johnny Gowindi. He's got no Arian De Freitas to help him. He has no Paul Malocus to come and help him today, so he's got to do it all on his lonesome. But of course, as we know, this race can't be won in the opening stages, but my goodness, can it be lost in the opening stages today, because this race is 39 laps. You have to do 2 stops here with the fuel that has to be done, and what you have to do is make sure you pace yourself throughout this event at a season finale race that has all the ingredients here to produce some very good racing as the last of the few drivers then look to put themselves on the grid, just waiting for Enzo Cantor here in the Thrustmaster Movano machine. And that will be all that we are waiting for here in terms of this one. Once we get Cantor up onto the grid, or not onto the grid, maybe with the last 10 seconds going, we'll get the lights on and we'll get this race underway. Advantage, though, will be with Greg Seitz in towards turn number 1. And I believe he may just have to start from the pits now. 2 minutes gone. Engine notes revving. And green, and we are go here at the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve, and they file single file in towards the opening section right now. And well, here we go as Gowindi tries to send one down the inside early on Greg Seitz. It doesn't quite work out the way he wants to. Small little bottlenecks then through the middle of the pack, and it's all clean, it's all tidy through turn 1 and 2. Surprising for some, as the corner section normally has notorious action, but going too wide and not ending up with people going through. Still got likes Diogo Francisco now under pressure from the driver of Francois Boulian. And Boulian doing a very good job of holding station here in the early stages. Cam, it's a clean start.
Yeah, that's great to see there as Anthony Catt in that 226 machine is on the inside, and Nick Sidgley back, this is well back in the field, probably 20th position or so. This is where they're continuing to run side by side, as they have basically since the drop of the green flag some 20 seconds ago. But it's a very good thing that we've got a clean start here. No big bottlenecks. I did think that was a good maneuvering from the car of Greg Seitz at the beginning there. He saw Johnny Gowindi. He did sneak up, trying to go on the inside of corner number 1, but really it was sort of a feint to set up for the exit to 2 with a run down to 3. And Seitz, he parked his machine up actually on the exit of 2 to kind of take that away from him. So good heads up from Greg Seitz as they all go down the hairpin. They're in the hairpin for the first time to the run-up to the chicane.
And there's no changes in position for the top 11 drivers then on the opening sections of this circuit. But the draft will become very, very apparent as they make the run towards the final chicane. The Wall of Champions battle for the lead. Here comes Johnny Gowindi thinking about it, but already he's playing that strategy card as he sits and waits. And it's that small little chink in the big dominant TT Racing bundle that you see at the front of the field. 1 lap then. Score complete out of a potential 39. Behind that, Andrew Picario looking at Brian Dewell, the Canadian, the hometown boy, here as Picario now wants to maybe think about making a move. That's not going to happen, though, in these early stages. Drivers will want to feel each other out, wait for those opportunities, and wait for the pit stop window to come into view.
Yeah, 1 car running down pit lane right now, Anthony Catt. he picked up suspension damage in the middle of the hairpin after making contact with Nick Sigley. So unfortunate there for Anthony Cat that he has to take his pit stop. He needs to get his car fixed and sorted out already, well out of any fuel window. So unfortunately, that 226 machine is going to be heavily hurting as Greg Seitz covering very well from Johnny Gawindi. Tipton, I'm sure he wants to try to take away that position away from Gawindi. But Leibert, I have a feeling Leibert, Duell, and Precario are going to be happily sitting back there right now, just letting these laps tick away. Don't want to get too aggressive too early, because here at Montreal, over-aggression can land you in the walls.
Just a reminder that live timing and scoring is available. Ladies and gentlemen, head over to RaceSpotTV/timing. If there's a driver that you haven't got, or that we haven't got the eyes on, shall we say, you can have the eyes on that through the live timing and scoring. Johnny Gawindi, though, as a driver, though, we still got ourselves a lot of side-by-side for the latter positions. But let's talk about Gawindi just for a second, Cam, because he used to be a part of that TT Racing outlet until 2 races ago, where he managed to crash into the side of Leibert, costing him the championship overall. And Leibert said, you know what, I've had enough, Gawindi, you can leave my team. Instead, he left for the champions team of Evolution Racing Team overall. But that side-by-side for around P22 or so, that's a big little train happening along the likes of Andreas Robertson, Matthew Willett, and Hans Hoyer looking for the move.
Yeah, and as it looks to me like Greg Seitz managed to take a massive bite out of that that first sausage there going in through the chicane. I have a feeling you probably want to keep a little bit careful on that. I can actually see a little bit of front wing damage. It won't affect the machine at all for Greg Seitz's machine, but it is a good indicator that he is really, really attacking those sausage curves. As Johnny Gawindi, once again, he gets a good exit off of corner number 2. But unfortunately, nothing in it. Definitely don't want to throw it inside here. We may see this later in the stages. Up to this corner number 3, you can see everybody just getting on the binders, and they try to throw it in there. That's a really, really difficult maneuver to make. So if you do see somebody throwing that maneuver, just be heads up that it probably isn't going to work. You've got this big run down here. This is very hard to run side by side, as you got the barrier on the right and the left, and then you got this chicane. So hopefully, if Johnny Gawindi is going to be setting up to the lead, he will not be trying it through this entire first sector, as really I don't expect anyone in the top 10 to. I don't think Gawindi is going to go for it, because Greg Seitz is the one that is breaking the air, Jake, and he is going to be saving everybody fuel.
Exactly, and Greg Seitz will be out of the strategy window if he stays at the front of the field. ISO and Christopher Cash, though, he leads the second train with Stephen Stoyles, Carl Dronke, Edwin Villarino there with Diogo Francisco, Mick Watson, Boulian, McCritchley, Clark. You also got Warmingham trying to get in on it with Chorley and Blocker there. So massive, massive trains as they all try and jink and dive their way onto the hairpin. Almost contact there between Francisco and Villarino through the hairpin. You've got to be careful through there. And look at this crossover on Watson for Francois Boulian in the Orion Race Team colours. And here comes Boulian. He's down on the inside. He's looking to make sure that it's a very easy move.
And they are split side by side, on like a 7-11 split in bowling there. They close it up now. Finally, Boulian, he wants to get up ahead. The Mick Watson will let him the position, and he'll think at the very last moment to pressure Francois Boulian into a mistake, and he does. As Francois Boulian, that 131 machine, is going to be losing 2, 3, 4, 5 positions as he has to lay way off. Now, actually, I hate this, because you can certainly give that time back over a period of corners. So Francois Boulian could have most certainly got after the throttle quite a little bit more aggressively instead of losing that many positions. Could have potentially only lost those 2 or 3. Either way, Boulian, he's going to have a lot of work ahead of him, though, because he just dropped probably, what, 4 or 5 positions? And not only that, he is sitting right behind Richard Warmingham. And that is quite a ways away. I think he's going to even have to draft up to him. So very tough for Francois Boulian.
Yeah, tough task for Boulian, but Villarino came down onto the lane at the end of the 3rd lap. He just gets himself out and going. He'll be with Anthony Catt, who will pretty much get himself into that sort of mini train that we're going to see then in this early stage. Again, Johnny Gawindi thinks about having a look at the front of the field, but again decides, oh, he doesn't want to do it. He wants Greg Seitz to use his pace to break away in this one, and Philippe Leibert behind has to be very careful about not dropping off the back of this train here. He doesn't want to be losing it at the very late stages. And of course, you can't forget here, Cam, about Enzo Cantor towards the rear of the field. Had to start then from a place known as Pit Road, and it's not the first time this season. It certainly won't be the last. Enzo Cantor now looking at Andreas Robertson here as he heads to the inside, the Movano driver.
Yeah, went on the outside of John Morgan going into the chicanes at 6 and 7. Now he's going on the outside of the hairpin here. He's going to try to get a drive on Rob Adams. He's moving through this field very, very quickly. He hastily wants to try to get through these guys, not just because, you know, getting positions all well and good, finding yourself close to the lead, yada, yada, etc. He just doesn't want to fall behind because lap after lap, with all the drafting and stuff like that, as here goes Kanta almost brushing up against that outside wall on the outside of Rob Adams, you don't want to let that front group draft away from you, because that can certainly happen lap after lap after lap. These groups that you're seeing will separate, and he taps the wall of champions. Will have given him suspension damage. We'll have to find out as he drives in a 1 and 2.
Yeah, he certainly will, and that's going to be very interesting for him in that situation, that driver who runs himself into the wall of champions, and that's going to be a frustrating moment for him, and he has to be careful about those ones, Cam, because if you start clipping that wall of champions, either A, you're going to become a champion one day, or B, you are not going to be in a situation where you're going to be too happy. And a certain Kazuki Umeshima will understand about the wall of champions a lot better than most drivers would. Nick Sidgley actually getting very heavy with the wall out of turns 3 and 4. Nick Sidgley's got to be careful he doesn't accrue suspension damage.
Yeah, and it looks to me like Enzo Canta's machine, his 924 machine, is running A-OK. We'll see if Nick Sidgley's is as well. As Sidgley, he's been finding himself quite a bit in the battles here today. As, yeah, that 138 machine, of course, the driver with that pink helmet and the matching pink rims, of course, as they go through the left-hander chicane. Well, there you go. There's kind of your answer. McCarr was certainly not happy in that low-speed corner. Doesn't know that necessarily means suspension damage or not, but hey, +1 to Enzo Canta as the front of your field runs to the 13-14 once again.
Yes, they do. And so they make this run to the final chicane that is oh so important. Stefan Stoyles, though, versus Christopher Cash. Cash will move down to the inside, look to take this move, and you'll wonder why we're not being so animated at these overtakes, which have been a little few and far between in this event. There's 39 laps of this event. There's no point getting ourselves blown up over the racing when they're pretty much going to have an attempt to get it back at some stage later on in this event, Cam.
I mean, we could. It'd be much, much more exciting, but we would be doing it every single lap, and then we wouldn't have a voice at the end of the race, which would be exciting. But, you know, these guys just, this front pack here, everybody knows each other, and everyone knows each other very well indeed. And it's not like these guys really... if they could just run away with the race and have like a 5-minute lead by the end of the race, they wouldn't be satisfied. They want to race. They want to race for the win. Well, obviously, but they want to actually have that competition. They want to have the laps ticking away. They want to have great battles. That's a lot of reasoning why there are so many people that stay here in the 2K Skip Barber series. Says Johnny Winnie closing in once again, and he'll back it off because these guys want this great competition. They want this group to separate. So there's 6 cars. These guys all want to break away from everyone else. And then as the laps tick away, then they're going to start getting into the fights and see if they can pass each other perhaps through pits and all the other action like that. And that's what makes this series so interesting.
It certainly does. And you look at this series being very interesting. You look at this series often finding itself with some very, very good drivers developing through. You talk about Richard Avery. You talk about the likes of Sebastian Job, Miko Nasi. Certainly drivers that all want to be in a situation where they want to be pushing and getting themselves through. And I tell you what we can do in this situation. We have a champion here joining us, the 2-time reigning, defending, undisputed Skip Barber 2K World Cup champion, Mr. Arian De Freitas. How you doing, buddy?
Good night, man. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Doing great.
Sorry, I can't race though.
Well, that's no problem at all. I mean, you're a champion. You have every right as I look at that. And that's a big dive from Stefan Stoyles, who abandons going across the straight, going down on towards pit road. We're here at, of course, the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve here. And, you know, you look at your teammate. You've left him a little bit lonely with the TT boys. And they are pretty much 1, 3, and 4 swarming him a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean... knowing Johnny is a team wrecker, I figured I'd rather not go on the track so he can't wreck me.
Ouch.
Well, okay. That's thrown me a little bit. But, of course, you got Leibert now behind your teammate, which is going to be a little bit of a moment between the pair of them potentially. And I don't know how long you're going to be staying here with us. I don't know if you want to, you know, stay for a little bit or anything, or if you're watching, which I believe you are now. So when you look at this one, of course, this is an endurance race that we've got. Do you feel that maybe someone like Johnny Guindi, who has experience of winning these endurance races, is on maybe a better level compared to some other drivers?
I think Philippe and Johnny are kind of on the same level. I mean, there's not much between them. In the end, it's all down to fuel strategy and fuel saving. And I mean, yeah, Johnny is good in that, but Philippe is also. PJ isn't there. He's the king of fuel saving, so that's a bit of a shame. He would have done good in this race, I think.
He certainly would have done, but you can't talk about what ifs. You have to talk about the here and now. Look how close Guindi decides to leave it here, Cam, to Greg Seitz and Leibert, hounding the rear of Guindi, saying, you could save fuel, but on the other hand, I could overtake you and make your life a little bit of a misery. So I think Johnny Guindi is in a very precarious situation.
Well, right now is a great spot to make your maneuver because Greg Seitz has already burned so much fuel. As here comes Leibert. Leibert, I think he was done waiting. He had gone past Tipton. Leibert goes to the inside. He'll take the corner away from Johnny Guindi. Johnny Guindi saw that coming, and so they'll get themselves sorted out and back into line. So it's Seitz, Leibert, Guindi, Tipton, Duell, and Precario still running in this group. I mean, it's not a real shocker that Leibert wants to start moving his way forward. Perhaps Greg Seitz needs a little bit of relief, so they really needed to get to perhaps the red and silver machines in 1-2, so they can perhaps do some trade-offs for fuel rather than letting the ERT machine get up front. But I don't even really look at the situation as team battling that much. I just think perhaps Greg Seitz doesn't want to be expending the fuel right now, or alternatively, they all want Greg Seitz to be taking that fuel, so he gets left behind when they go into pits.
Yep, and it's going to be about who gets the best pit stops here. And with a two-stop strategy today, Arjen, do you feel that it's going to be he who saves the most fuel wins this event because of time on the lane?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's not much between them in raw pace and raw lap times. So in the end, yeah, the one who does the shorter stop, and there's some luck involved there as well, because it's not like the Formula 1 races where every stop is between like 3.5 and 4 seconds. It can be 13, it can be 11, sometimes it can be even 14 or 15 seconds. It's not really consistent, and I think it's all down to how you hit it, but we're still figuring out why it's so random. So it kind of depends on that as well. But in the end, yeah, fuel saving is king here. It's so freaking important. And Philippe down the line, down the pit lane.
It is very important, and we'll say watch your language ever so slightly. Is down onto the lane comes another driver. That one being Russell Clark, who's going to dive in at the end of lap 8, start of lap 9. So that's another thing that's got to be remembered about this pit stop. It's not using the official Formula 1 pit entrance, shall we say, or pit boxes, but more rather the IndyCar ones here, Cam, so you can go right the way down to the end of the pits.
Yep, and here comes Leibert. He has got his fuel. My timing there, state tells me that was good enough for 11.2 seconds of fuel. And he'll find himself out in traffic, Nick Sigley, and that's just how far this field is driven away. I mean, Leibert, they was right up front. He actually made the pass for the lead on Greg Seitz, and then immediately ducked into pit lane. And then, well, he's now behind Nick Sigley. So just like Enzo Canta and a couple of the other hot feet, he's got to work his way through this traffic here. That might not actually be the best thing as Nick Sigley politely gets out of the way. That might not be the best thing because, well, you have to fight your way through traffic.
Exactly, and if you happen to be someone like Johnny Guindi, who's now moved to the point at the front of the field, you'd probably argue in this situation that Johnny Guindi has got to go and do something now as he made that move at turn number 1 on that last lap. If I was Guindi, I'd probably go and cover this move because that's the early stop maybe that you would be thinking, Arjen, in that situation. And you can see he's moved hard to the right-hand side to sort of break the draft. The other drivers having none of it, but Guindi right now maybe just trying to play the conventional game compared to the other drivers behind.
Well, what's interesting for me is he actually has a mistake coming off the exit. I'm sorry if you pitched that to Arjen. But I think other thing, though, if Gawindi's up front, Greg Seitz and Justin Tipton can't just bowl their way into pit lane full throttle, because there's plenty of room to do that, by the way. But obviously, with that mistake there, that cycles him back down to second position. So, unfortunately for Gawindi, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. But Arjen, you know, sometimes small mistakes do start to creep in. How do you refocus your mind when you start making small mistakes?
Well, it's just resetting and going all over it on it again. I mean, there's not much you can do, and you just have to reconcentrate, refocus, and try to be as consistent as possible. Greg is no slouch, so in that regard, Johnny won't lose that much time. So yeah, it's all down to I'm looking at Philippe's times, and it's going to be close, but we'll see.
We will see indeed. And looking at Leibert, it will have to be next lap that we look at the big advantage point and see what sort of times Leibert is doing in the clean air that he has in comparison. His next vehicles he'll catch will be Mark Chorley and Steve Leverley in the 945 and the 151 respectively here. Leverley in his own little battle with Adam Blocker, and it's nice to see Adam Blocker back, Cam. It's been a while since we've seen him have a good run, and Blocker, one of those drivers who, no matter where you go, is probably one of the nicest people you'll probably meet.
Yeah, and it's good to see that 196 out, Steve Leveille, or Leverley. I'm not quite sure myself, but I always thought it was Leveille, but we're not going by Cameron pronunciations because it's not great. But either way,
you put a weird O in it.
Who knows? But for Adam Blocker, good to have made that maneuver. Steve Leveille, or Leveille, you're looking down to the inside, going through the chicane. That 151 machine should be able to get the braking. Blocker gives him plenty of space. I think these guys are just giving themselves respectful room right now. We are only on lap 10 of 39. Normally, we would see a lot more action, I would have to say, at this point of the race. But you know what? Big old chunk of this race left to go here, Jake.
Yeah, 29 laps left of racing. That's certainly not all that is left to be had. But again, Johnny Gawindi back to the point, back to the front of the field in comparison to Greg Seitz. And this is the thing that's got to be starting to worry Justin Tipton and co behind. You've got drivers like Brian Dewell right now here, Arjen, and also Andrew Picario, who are sitting and waiting and just saving as much fuel as they possibly can. If this continues, though, and you take a driver like Justin Tipton starting to fall back, if they lose the draft, all that fuel saving will be for nothing because they're not on that leading train anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Brian is known for doing good in these kind of races as well. He's a good fuel saver. Learned from PJ, I think. But yeah, it's all down to keeping in the draft, keeping in the train, not wasting too much time. Almost touched there. So in that regard, yeah, it's going to be close to them. Looking at the times, Johnny just gained 2/10 on Philippe, so Philippe doesn't seem to be faster without draft. So we'll see how that ends up.
We certainly will. So we're seeing how the top five are starting to change positions now on a more regular basis. When you get right down to it, in comes Gawindi, in comes Seitz, in comes Precario. Staying out there will be Brian Dewell and Justin Tipton, who have been saving as much fuel as they possibly can. Gawindi's last lap was a 53.4. Compare that to Leibert, was a 53.6. Leibert right now heading down this back straight, so the pit stops are going to be very crucial to see where Mr. 2K World Cup is going to come out in comparison. They wait to find their lane as we've still got side by side Mick Watson versus Carl Dronke into 1 and 2. Dronke holds the position then as he heads into the long 180-degree right-hand bend, but eyes on the stops now. Seitz and Gawindi and Precario as well. And you can see Johnny Gawindi getting a much better stop, potentially short-filling that one a lot more than the other drivers. And look at that one, Arjen. He's ahead of Philippe Leibert.
Oh, and he almost loses it. Sorry, I could have swore he was going to spin it and hit the wall. I'm sorry.
Nah, he's good. Arjen, he was, wasn't he?
He was good.
He was good. We knew what we were doing, Cam. We knew what we were doing.
I didn't know if Johnny did. I thought that was going to go in the wall and come across the track and collect Leibert, and that would have been all we needed.
Oh, Johnny seems to overdriving it a bit, but it's okay.
Well, he's just come out of the box, so you would argue maybe, Cam, in this situation that Johnny Guindy's still got to find his feet. He's had a little bit of respite. He's got arguably the most dangerous driver of the field right behind him, and not only is he right behind him, but he's right behind him for the race-leading battle.
Yeah, and I think also on top of this, for being the new race-leading battle, that he managed to dump Greg Seitz and Andrew Picario and Stefan Stoyles and Edwin Villarino, who is many positions back now. But this whole front group has just been smashed by this decision, as Tipton and Brian Duell are going side by side into pit lane. Brian Duell with actually a pass going into pit lane, and then they slow themselves down 40 miles an hour. And something I did not appreciate too much was just how much these cars are driving in the actual pit lane boxes themselves. A little bit before they get to their stop, typically you would want to stay in the out lane, and then you get typically like a two pit box to come in and then two pit box exit. But unfortunately, these guys are just going in way early, which I'm sure is fine. Literally everyone's doing it, but either way, tons of cars in pit lane.
Yeah, everyone else deciding that's about as far as they can go. Battle, though, between Leibert and Guindy. The two teammates now turned rivals between the pair of them as they head into 1 and 2. No position changes, and Leibert can sit and he can wait. Out and away, then, goes the driver of Justin Tipton as he makes his drive towards turn number 2. And he's lost out the most here. He's behind Andrew Picario. Not only is he behind here, Arjen, he's behind by a good fair bit.
Yeah, he is, and Brian lost even more there. Yeah, it's insane, actually. I mean, Greg lost a lot compared to Felipe and Johnny, and then looking at this, Justin lost a lot compared to Greg, and then Brian lost even more. And I know Brian and Greg are still fighting for 3rd place in the championship, I think. So yeah, Brian would have done, or would have liked to do better there.
Yeah, they want to do a lot better here, and it's for 4th in the championship with Johnny Guindy, who's missed a lot of races this season, in position number 3 overall. Greg Seitz and Brian Duell, the difference between them in points heading into this event, just the solitary 1 is the answer between the pair. So Guindy right now happy in 3rd in the championship, but that's what we're talking about, the battle for 4th overall between Duell and Greg Seitz, and both of them have had pretty good seasons by recommendation. I think Greg Seitz has had the best season that he's had so far. Maybe you could argue, Cam, that over the season, I know you've not seen all of it, but Brian Duell at some races has been a little bit disappointing.
Well, some tracks are good, some tracks are not. Excuse me there. But either way, I think probably just to be a bit more realistic of a driver is Brian Duell. That's why I've always liked Brian, because he has good tracks and tracks that aren't very too great. Where some of these guys, they just seem to unload the cars and then just go instantly fast and then never have any problems ever. But Brian's been working on it. He's been working on the lap times and everything like that. The good old Canadian working hard, as he's going to be looking to get by Stefan Stoyles fairly quickly. I feel that he's probably going to need to get by Stefan Stoyles. I believe that he is the faster car between the two of them. But I think ultimately, though, the two of them are, whether they want to or not, probably going to have to start working with each other with the draft in order to catch back up to this weird lead pack between Philippe Leibert and Guindy. Leibert, well, he's your leader now. Johnny Guindy, he's the one that's in 2nd position, but these guys are still cutting razor pretty much every single corner. These guys are racing extremely hard.
Well, they kind of have to work together in this stage, so they want to break everybody else. But if you're Philippe Leibert, you could argue that you want your teammates back here to help Johnny Guindy. You don't want to be doing it on your own. Yes, I want Justin Tipton, you could argue here, Arjen. Yes, I want Greg Seitz to come and help me, because that's more drivers to unsettle your teammate of Johnny Guindy, who is there in that front pack.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about it. I mean, if you're with the two of you, you can focus, you can maybe work together, gain some advantage. At least you know you're, well, this is me, the calculating driver. At least you know you have a 2nd place in the bag. But yeah, on the other end, you want to win, right? So, and I mean, for Felipe and Johnny, there's nothing much more to gain. So yeah, I think either of them would want to win this race.
And who wouldn't want to win a race is my answer to that one there in terms of that. So who wouldn't want to be winning a race as I keep an eye on Stephen Stoyles not making the move on Brian Dewell on the run down into that final chicane that's so important. 3 wide on the backstretch. Catch McCritchley there and Warmingham. Warmingham will be the man to drop out of this little battle then as they all head through that final chicane. And that was brave there, Cam, to go 3 wide as Edwin Vallarino comes in for a second stop then on the event. Christopher Cash getting that position, having to be brave here at this event.
Yeah, I think he lost quite a bit, Christopher Cash, in that pit stop exchange. I think I might remember he pulled in and out of 2 different stalls, and then he had to stop, and he was very, very slow to the box. He sort of coasted into the box and then stamped the brakes, so he's perhaps a little further back than his on-track speed has been proving for that 111 machine. But either way, James McCritch and Richard Warmingham are all looking to get involved in that, as they just were, though. Goes to show Christopher Cash, I mean, just how much of a gap that he's already pulled in probably, what, the 4 or 5 corners since they went 3 wide. He is saying goodbye to them. He wants to get to the back of Nick Watson. But either way, I think the majority of this field is extraordinarily split up right now, minus your leaders between Philippe Lebert and Johnny Guindi. They are still front to bumper.
Yep, front to bumper and 5 seconds clear of the drivers of the likes of Sight, Precario and Tipton. And Andrew Precario right in the middle of this little train. Justin Tipton will want to find a way through as quickly as he can and help up here in the battles that we've got. And, well, Guindi looking at this one, maybe thinking with an opportunity, but not quite happening, Arian. But this circuit, it produces a lot of opportunities when you start searching for them.
Yeah, especially in the Skippy. I mean, the Skippy is so draft heavy. And this track with the long straights, I mean, it's great racing and all, and there's a lot of tactics involved. Looking at Brian and Steven, Brian seems to drive away from him now. So in that regard, I don't think Steven can keep up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he maybe has a chance. We've just seen an incident, though, with Rob Adams in the 99 machine. He's had himself an incident down at the second chicane, and, well, he got himself... Whoa! That was Rob Adams for 1, and that was also Enzo Cantor going around, and that was surprising there, Cam. Enzo Cantor was on the charge, but the Italian passion turns into an Italian wreck.
Well, I mean, he was doing fairly all right. Didn't seem to even be taking it too aggressive. I think he just straightened out the wheel a little too early. And this is the interesting thing, actually. Cantor had tried to stop his car as much as it could, and Rob Adams had nowhere to go. Rob Adams, he clipped his front nose and went. I think all he lost was the nose cone. That car was salvageable, so unless there was suspension damage that I didn't see at the very least. But for Rob Adams and Enzo Cantor, very unfortunate end to their day. Enzo Cantor, he's bringing his extraordinarily damaged machine down pit lane right now. But either way, it just goes to show you one mistake at Montreal can certainly change everything.
It certainly can, and one of the few street circuits on the iRacing service, Arian, and when you have the walls just that bit closer towards you and you have to be uber precise with your movements and how much you're steering and how much input that you're putting in, is it very much a thinking man circuit here at Montreal?
It is. I mean, there's like a lot of strategy involved, and I mean, on the straight you can like concentrate on your next corner, but it's pretty easy to overcook it. And I mean, with the Wall of Champions going on, I think earlier on you saw Johnny going through the curbs and almost hitting it. To be faster, you have to really cut it, but it's gonna be close.
It always will be at the Wall of Champions. There's no real alternatives when you get right down to it. Of course, 20 limits on the incident points here today, and 1 fast repair available for all drivers to be working with at the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve. But right now, how much does Johnny Guindi want to let Philippe Lebert get away here? The gap now opens to 0.6 of a second between the pair of them right now here, Cam, and you could argue in this situation, Guindi may be trying to save the engine, save the tyres, save the fuel a bit. He's just trying to micromanage every single aspect of this race.
Well, I think the aggressor, whichever that has been, I mean, basically it's been Johnny Guindi and it's been Philippe Lebert by the time of this race. We're halfway through pretty much of this race. I just got to say, whoever's in that second position has been the one that has been super putting on a lot of pressure. They want to force their opponent into making a mistake. Now, they have gotten so very close to having an incident at pretty much every single lap that I haven't even really been worried about it, because it just, whoever that second driver is has been very careful to make sure that they don't actually make contact with the car in front of them. That's respectful racing. So here goes Philippe Barber, here goes Johnny Guindy. Will Guindy go onto the inside? Nope, no, never mind. So either way, I have a feeling that these two cars are going to do this up until they enter their pit lane. Now, Philippe Barber can't let anything happen here. He knows Johnny Guindy is light on fuel. He knows Johnny Guindy is going to have a much longer pit stop than pretty much everybody else. But we also have to remember Philippe Barber, he was one of the very first cars to come in, period. So both of these guys are going to be fairly interesting how their fuel strategies are going to go. I honestly think that both of them would probably like to back off if they had the chance.
I think they would, and they're building that gap now 6.6 back to Justin Tipton now, who has moved up into third position. Tipton, Sykes and Precario, then Precario at the back of this train being a freeloader, you could argue, compared to the two TT boys that are out there. James McCritchie through on Warmingham, but now Adam Blocker here now, Arjen, on the train that's going on behind Warmingham and McCritchie. And Adam Blocker maybe could have done with a full-time season to get himself towards top 10 results. And when Adam's put his mind to it, he has been there, and he has been very, very successful.
Yeah, he certainly was. I mean, he's a quick guy overall. Whenever he finds the time, I think, to practice, he's up there with like top 5, top 10 easy. I guess it's all down to track time and yeah, I don't know how much time he actually has nowadays. It seems he doesn't practice as much as he did in some races, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll certainly see how he does in terms of the future, but Warmingham right now, here the Englishman in the 158, trying to get past McCritchie in the 157. Missed apex though from McCritchie. He's going to compromise the entirety of his exit, and Warmingham may have a chance on the run down towards the hairpin. Moves to the right-hand side of the circuit then, as he looks to dive down towards that inside, but backs out of it there. A wise decision here at the hairpin, knowing that you have to go too wide as Blocker runs a little bit wide there down at that hairpin, and Cam just in front of that. Cash has just found Mick Watson. Leader is in.
Yeah, and so let's see here just exactly how the times are going to go. It's Barber by himself. It's Guindy. He has got one lap. Guindy's pulled over. Okay, Guindy's climbed out of his car. All right, well, that settles that, I suppose. So, Guindy, not sure if he had enough fuel to make it another lap. I think that he intended to go into pit lane, and he didn't have enough fuel to make it to the start-finish line once again. So for Johnny Guindy, that is probably going to be one of the strangest retirements I think I've seen. So Philippe Barber, all right, just stretch the legs, get the fuel, and back out on circuit.
Well, I'm going to have a look here through this little chicane that he's had, and, well, it may have just been that he was maybe far too aggressive in that section. Johnny Guindy is officially out of the event in a very interesting situation there. So that's completely thrown a spanner in the works there, Ryan. I don't know what you thought about that one, but that was a very weird one.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is. I'm looking at his cockpit now and sure listening to the engine. It seems, yeah, he ran out of fuel, it seems, but he might have heard it over the curb. I don't know, to be honest.
It's a very baffling situation. The only way we're going to find out about Johnny Guindy's incident is if we talk to the man himself, but this has completely thrown this race in the hands of TET Racing, because Barber now effectively leads the race all on his merry lonesome right now, Cam, which may suggest something in terms of where we are. We're on lap 19 out of 39, so if this is half distance, it's a 3-stop race that we are seeing here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And Greg Sykes and Justin Tipton switching places again. Justin Tipton now to the net race lead.
And I have, using my extensive contacts of the YouTube chat, found what's happened. Johnny Guindy forgot to pit. So there's your answer there. Well, you know, you get so psyched up, you're in the race, you're having such a great duel, and then you just forget to pit. But for Justin Tipton, he's moved up that one position to the rear end, through in front of Greg's sights. Andrew Picario, he has been hovering basically all race long, and he hasn't really been too aggressive. He hasn't been really, I don't want to say trying hard, because that's not accurate at all. He's trying very hard, but just he's being patient. That's the word I'm looking for, because what's going to happen, these cars are all going to come into pit. Philippe Laibert is 23 seconds behind this group. That's more than enough time, I think. When they come into pit, the entirety of pit lane is just about over a minute, no, 44 seconds, 45 seconds. So if this whole crew comes in for their pits, for their second pit stop, they are going to find themselves way behind Philippe Laibert.
They certainly are, and here's the man who forgot how to pit, Johnny Gwindy. Johnny, how have you managed to forget to pit?
I don't know. I amaze myself every day.
What will Brent...
I was just used to driving the GT3 for an hour, and so you don't really have to keep an eye on the field till you feel tired, and by then you know you should be pitting. Whereas here, the stint is literally 11 laps. So, and I shared fuel, so it was like maybe 5-6 laps. I was just focusing on saving fuel, and forgot the pit.
You forgot to pit. Well, what will Brenton O'Brien say to you after that?
I don't know. It would be nice.
Don't forget to pit.
He's a nice man, but that's his patience.
Yes. It would be a very testing moment for Brenton O'Brien. From what I would know of him, Paul would know of him. A lot of other people would probably know of him as well. But of course, for you, a very good season for you. You may have just thrown away third in the championship, though. With a result like that, I've got to look at the drop weeks. And the answer is you've got none left. So you're hoping that Greg and Brian don't have good results here. But for you, a half season, you could argue that you've had this time on season 10. For season 11, are you looking to try and get yourself a full season under the belt?
I don't know. It really depends on what else I'm doing outside of Skip Barber's. But if I have the time, I'll definitely try to go for it. But until then, I'll be focusing on other stuff. And with Rallycross coming out, I'm super excited for that. So I'll be spending some time there.
Well, that's definitely going to be soon. How soon? Very soon is the answer. In just a couple of days' time, we'll get the introduction of Rallycross. But Johnny Gwindy there, joining us from the Evolution Racing team there. But Iron, well, you're looking at this race. It's looking one way, and it's looking TT Racing's way.
It certainly does. Yeah, Philippe is... I mean, he's going unchallenged now. He can draft a bit behind some guys there, and I mean, it depends on what Greg does, and it might have been that Greg like put a full tank of fuel in it, and Philippe didn't. So after Greg's pit stop, we might see where they end up, but probably, yeah, Philippe will have an easy win here today.
Well, that may be the case, but you can't.
Hold on. I'd like to raise my finger here. If Philippe Laibert pitted with the impression that Johnny Gwindy was going to be running an entire lap more than he was able to run, did he short fill, anticipating that Johnny Gwindy could go further, perhaps putting him in danger for not having enough fuel to the finish of the race?
And the question then goes to be, as Laibert gets very aggressive over the final curves, would that then be that you could see Greg's sights on a 2-stop here today and a 3-stop potentially, Arian, for Laibert?
I think, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, to be honest, not because I haven't practiced that much, or at all. But I think it's supposed to be a 3-stop race, so I don't think you can make it 2 stops.
All could.
So in that regard, we'll see.
We'll definitely see, indeed, when it comes to this one. And well, 11, 11, 11. That's what I think everyone will be hoping to do in terms of lap stints here. So 33 will be about as far as you can possibly go, and then you got a 6-lap sprint to get yourself over to the end. So yep, 3 lap stints. So this is lap 22 of the event. So if things go as we think, then you should expect to see all of your top 3 diving down onto the lane, which is Seitz, Tipton, and Precario. Precario's been playing that precarious little game here today, Cam. He's just been sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and I wonder how long he is very content with waiting.
I've been wondering how long you've been waiting to say that. But either way, for Greg Seitz, I have a feeling he's going to... I'm not sure if he's going to pull in a pit lane. Seitz has really kind of been the snowplow of air for these machines, for Tipton and Precario. As everyone's going to go yet another lap around, so we'll see how they go here. Somebody's going in. There's Brian Duell. He's all the way hot-footed in, as he's now finding himself down to the 40 mile an hour that he needs to be. As, of course, the ever Mr. Beaned out helmet of Brian Duell finds himself on pit lane once again. That was from 4th position. We'll see where he comes out.
We certainly will. Francois Boulian of Orion Race Team also down onto pit road at this early stage. James McCritchie dives down to lane. Lebert will look to try and make his way past Carl Dronke right now in the number 10 machine, and will do so very comfortably. Brian Duell still sitting, still waiting on lap 23 then, out of 39, and I think he's too short to get himself then home and dry on 12 lap stints over to the end. And I think everybody is going to be a little bit short heading to the end. Maybe those who can do 3 laps on that final stint and will fuel a lot less, the likes of Seitz, the likes of Tipton, the likes of Precario. Maybe you could argue here, Arian, they may still have a shot of winning this because they'll spend less time on pit road.
It could be. I mean, depending on the fuel saving Greg did, but I think Greg has been leading this pack all race long, so he wouldn't have saved as much fuel as the guys behind. So I expect maybe Justin jumps him in the pit stop. I'm not sure, but I reckon they will come in this lap around.
Well, we'll see if your reckoning is correct. If not, you're fired. You don't work. That doesn't work. Okay. Precario then, looking for an opportunity. Tipton, though, will look to just close in, move to the inside here, look to try and take that position away. And that's very interesting, the way everything's been positioned as they get on the brakes, because you look at that, straight on goes 1, straight on goes 2. Tipton goes a lap longer than the other 2, and look at how Precario just closed in there, Arian. That was pretty good. You got 2 out of 3. You're reinstated.
Yay. Yeah, Precario is always heavy on the brakes in the pit stop. I remember me and Watkins Glen last season, with him on my championship race, I think. And it was pretty close, so this is going to be close as well. I mean, he has an earlier pit stall, so in the end it will all work out.
It certainly will. Greg Seitz will be able to apply the power, shall I say, the best out of anybody in the early goings here. And, well, Les Lebert, who has instantly run for the hills and has gone a mile away. Out comes Precario, and he again jumps the driver, Greg Seitz. So Seitz again struggling on the lane there a little bit, Cam, and that's going to be frustrating for him as he has to deal with a little bit of traffic in the middle now. Mark Chorley splits the 2.
Yeah, for Greg Seitz, I mean, just taking a look here, it was 17.0 seconds on his pit stop. Stefan Stoyles behind him was a 17.4, but Mark Chorley, he was a 16.1, Andrew Precario a 15.3, Brian Duell a 12.5, and for Philippe Barber, he only took a 13.5, so Greg Seitz, he has been slowly sifting back through this pack simply by virtue of how long he's been on pit lane.
And the next question now is, how quick is the 5 of Justin Tipton, the only driver really of the leaders that hasn't made too much of a stop? I don't think we have seen in Christopher Cash either. We haven't, so Cash is expected to dive down onto the lane. And, well, right now, Justin Tipton will be hoping that he can keep it with Precario with a very good stop, and he's going to go straight on onto the brakes. He'll go in towards pit road, and he's very considerate, conservative as well there, Arian. That pit entrance line, it's not actually a line. You're always sort of guessing for the cone, I guess, as a driver.
Yeah, in practice we normally try and find a braking marker before the pit line, so we know kind of where to brake, but it's always a bit random. And I mean, if you're looking up your brakes, you slide a bit, and it's a bit lenient sometimes towards the pit speed, but it's always close.
It's always very close. Barber goes to re-inherit the race lead overall. In comes Cash, and down the front stretch comes the driver, Precario, and Brian Duell. Brian Duell has actually jumped everybody in this one, and look at this, out of nowhere, here comes the driver of Tipton to try and re-inherit position number 2 out on circuit, and Brian Duell, fighting for third in the championship, may just come out smelling of roses here, Cam, especially being in the top 3 battle.
Yes, and so just as the gaps all go through, it's Barber with a 10-second gap over Tipton. Tipton with nothing between him and Duell just about maybe 0.8 of a second between him and Precario, and then it's another 3 seconds to Greg Seitz, another 5 seconds to Stoyles, and it just continues onward from there. So we don't no longer have a front pack per se, but boy, is it getting fairly close here with how it is now just being completely dependent on the driver's ability to do qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap here at a circuit, Jake, that is has the potential to ruin your day at the slightest of mistakes.
And well, Philippe Labert with a 10-second lead will be very considerate and conservative between now and the end of this event, as it's 1 and 2. And at the front of the second train is Justin Tipton. Now, he won't go and chase down here, Aaron, you wouldn't think, the driver for the lead, but he's got a certain Greg Seitz he wants to bring back in, who's 3 seconds off the back. If Greg's not quick enough, though, Justin Tipton will go, well, I might as well go fight for position number 2, but you'd feel that TT Racing have responsibility to try and get third in the championship.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm always wondering in that regard how much they actually share on fuel strategy. I mean, it seems all 3 of them are on different strategies, and I don't know if they share it beforehand or not. And I know we've in PSR and later in ERT, we've always shared what we did. We always called it out when we went into the pits. But especially in those races with certainly like this with 3 pit stops, it's going to be so close in the end. And I'm wondering what how did Philippe get the 10 seconds? Did he maybe short fuel again? And does he need to stop earlier and bid a bit longer? I don't know.
That certainly could seem to be the case. Andreas Robertson then in the 251 machine. He's in a bit of a battle with Anthony Cat just in front as Enzo Cantor lets all of them go through. Nick Sidgley is in that 3-car train as well as they all head through the Wall of Champions section, that final chicane here at the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve. And Anthony Cat then, after all his issues, has brought himself back to 20th. Robertson thinking about the inside, not wanting to make the move just yet, Cam, but still sitting, still waiting, and it doesn't matter what position you fight for, 19th is still some good points.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've seen a lot of action around Anthony Cat. I believe he was one of the ones that had that some damage early on that he needed to come on down into the pits and get sorted out and fixed away. So it's good to see him getting some action in, as Andreas Robertson, as Nick Sidgley as well. Sidgley, his car seems perpetually damaged because every single time they come on down pit lane, now they do have one quick repair, of course, but it does seem to me that he's managing to ding and damage that car between the pit stops when they've been fixing the damage.
It's almost like death by 1,000 paper cuts when you look at Nick Sidgley in a sense, because every time you look, there's another little bit of a nick that he's had, and he just can't seem to keep it out of the wars. But what we're going to do here on RaceSpotTV is we're going to take you for a little bit of fan immersion on the driver of Andrew Precario right now as he sits behind Brian Duell. This is the next lap, brought to you by Andrew Precario. And there you see it, Andrew Picario having a very solid lap, 153.5, running well in the train and just keeping himself there very stable. And what was very much well noted as we watched the fan immersion there, Iron, was that Picario doesn't want to be making moves at this stage. He's going to wait for the final strategy to come into play because we are heading ourselves now into the final 12 laps or so. He's going to wait for that final stop, and then he's going to go all guns blazing for what is as high as a position as he's got. Andrew Picario wants to do well here in his final race.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, he lets Justin burn the fuel now, and Brian is saving a bit, it seems, and Andrew is saving a lot more behind them. We'll see what happens after the pit stop, but I think he'll jump them both.
And it is worth noting as well, Cam, that the driver of Picario is still yet to have a race win when it comes right down to what the 2K World Cup has been. And this has been a season where we have seen some of the most surprising victories overall, the likes of Luke Whitten, for example, taking a victory, Tuan Tran as well. And those were both the races that you were covering on at Lime Rock and Virginia. So anything that can happen does happen, and Justin Tipton as well looking for a first victory too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with how this race has developed, with how Johnny Gwindy has had that pit kerfluffle, and with how this racetrack goes, the Wall of Champions does always seem to claim late. So we'll see here. But either way, I mean, it's going to be exciting. I hope for, Brian Dwell, Andrew Picario to get in this. They're right there. They've just got Justin Tipton to go to. And then they've got Philippe Lebert. Lebert, he's really driving the car on the ragged's edge. He knows he has to do qualifying laps, lap in, lap out. That was a 153.576 that last time by. But even by himself, he's still not proceeding any faster than Justin Tipton, a 153.3. And then Duell and Picario, both very low in the 153s as well. So exciting to see here how this race is going to develop with 10 laps to go.
Well, it's very safe from the driver of Lebert. 10 seconds, 10 laps. He's not dropping it a second a lap. Eyes, though, on the 151 of Steve Leverley. As we look at things right now, he's got Mark Chorley just in front. Thought about the move into the final chicane. Wasn't going to happen, but good run out to the exit there, and it's going to have to be a chance here in towards turn number 1. So maybe a chance then into 1 and 2, and you can see Steve Leverley moving down to the inside, outside the small little kink, down to the inside, and Chorley gave him a lot of room there to go down to the inside. And Iron, is that maybe something that drivers who are a little less experienced have to deal with, is the fact that they maybe need to be a little bit more aggressive on how they defend positions?
Might be, but on the other end, a lot of strategy in the skip art, and I mean, sometimes the races are a bit, well, boring maybe to look at, but most of it comes down to fuel saving and not losing a lot of time while fighting. And every time you're fighting, you're losing time to the people in front. So in that regard, if they don't fight, the guy behind won't close the gap, and they're still fighting for the same position instead of like having a three-way fight.
I was having a look at Philippe Lebert coming down onto the line, and I was wondering how late he was getting onto it at this stage. So Lebert may have been caught speeding over the line if he's not been too careful, and that would mean that 10-15 second stop and hold, that could put a spanner right in the works, Cam, if he's been a little bit too greedy coming down onto the lane.
Well, he might have had to really push the envelope here, so we'll see Lebert. Oh, he's already on the rev, so I wouldn't be too surprised if nothing's wrong here. Philippe Lebert, he is at 12.7 seconds, and his car is off and away, so no problems there for Philippe Lebert. A very quick run on pit lane, 44.1 seconds. Everyone around him, Francois Bouillon, that was a 44 total lane for his lap time. Diego Francisco, I guess I should say, 44.6. So, I mean, he's almost 3 seconds faster than everyone else's lanes except for Brian Duell, who had a 41.2. So, between Duell and Philippe Lebert, very similar lap times, though Philippe Lebert is finding himself stuck in traffic.
Yeah, he is, and that's a lot of traffic to deal with here, and he can't afford to be too greedy here, can Mr. 2K World Cup, because he knows that any time that he starts being too greedy, trying to take more than he can chew, this circuit's going to bite back. This Barber is certainly going to bite back. And, well, you can see Boulian in the Orion Race Team machine leapt through the driver of Philippe Labert, and there was no worries at all from that one there, Arjen. And I think Francois Boulian understands he's in a race of his own proportions.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, in general, we get a lot of respect from the other drivers when we're like coming out of the pits, and you see it a lot. Like the better guys. I don't want to call myself better guys, but at least the guys contending for top positions, they are known in the community, and they don't put up such a fight. Some people do. Most of them, well, kind of give us a lot of room. Although he goes back for it now.
Well, he tries to go back for it here, does Francois Boulian, and, well, he gets it, and, well, he's going to work then with Mr. 2K World Cup in Philippe Labert, and Labert won't be too happy about that. We'll go side by side out of the final chicane and get the run, very good in on the lane. Hans Hoyer is down there with Steven Stoyles making his final stop of the day. In comes Warmingham just behind as well. So few drivers then making the final stops, Cam, and it's worth saying this racing is probably more stronger than any SOF race you will ever get to see.
Oh, absolutely. And as the time ticks on down, it's only going to get better and better and better. Because, well, these guys are very, very keen on with how late they have to go. They do this almost week in, week out, every other week. And what ends up happening is that these guys can... they're familiar with how long it takes to make the maneuver. So it's not going to be like one of those races where somebody that's finding themselves in a position to where they could make a last lap pass, to where these guys are used to making last lap passes and defending last lap passes week in, week out here in the 2K World Cup Series. So we'll have a good one here. Right now, it is just Justin Tipton, Brian Dwell, Andrew Picario. But you got to wonder, when are they going to be coming into pit lane here? Their last pit stop was, let's see here, according to my timing, they are on 6.7 stint length for Justin Tipton, 8 for Brian Dwell, and 7 for Andrew Picario. So actually fairly interesting here. Everybody minus Picario and Seitz had come in on different laps. So we'll see if they'll do that again, or if they'll all just work their way through and come in one final gaggle.
Well, that's going to be the question here, because Brian Dwell tried the undercut. It worked very nicely for him. The overcut just about worked out for Justin Tipton. You could argue it was Greg Seitz who was the big loser out of that last time by. But again, Labert and Boulian going at it together. And, well, Labert given a lot of space in towards that final chicane as Boulian almost ceremoniously dropped off of the rear of that miniature battle that we just saw. Coldronke, though, versus Adam Blocker here. This is the battle going on for 12th and 13th out on circuit. Coldronke has been a driver that should be on your radar, maybe, or has been on your radar, Arjen, as a driver who has been improving this season.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, I remember him coming out of the... I think I was coming out of the pits in Suzuka, and he was next to me. He still had to pit, I think, and it kind of cost me the win. But in general, Carl has been going quicker and quicker. Looking at the battle ahead, though, between Greg and Brian, especially for the championship, it seems Greg is losing ever so much time every lap again. So I think Greg went the wrong strategy, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
We certainly will, and with the difference being just one solitary point in the championship between the pair of them for the third position, it means that Brian Dwell right now here, Cam, in the driver's seat for Positive Sim Racing, and that's going to be very welcome news for him, especially after the fact that he's lost the entirety of his team, thanks in small part to the man that has joined us in the commentary booth.
Well, I don't really know about all that, so, hey. But either way, here comes Brian Dwell and his always properly themed Mr. Bean helmet, as maybe we can see that Mr. Bean in victory lane, or at the very least on the podium, depending on how Philippe Labert sorts himself out. He's only 19 seconds behind, so we got to remember, if any of these guys come into pit, I mean, no surprise here that Labert is going to go blowing by. But I got to say here, we are sitting on, what, 6 laps to go in this motor race? And if the stint lengths are to 11 laps, well, everybody here minus Philippe Labert is going to have to come into pit. We've got Philippe Labert, we've got Stefan Stoyles, we've got Diego Francisco, these are really the only cars, as well as Adam Blacker and Carl Dronke, and pretty much the whole rest of the field throughout this, that it can make it. Brian Dwell can only really make it maybe an additional lap past this one. Justin Tipton could only make it 3 laps past this one, and Andrew Picario can only make it 2 laps past this one. So very interesting as Francois Bouillon is on pit lane.
Francois Bouillon then bites the bullet for the Orion Race team, hits the line, absolutely inch to perfection with the start-finish line, gets himself going as through goes Steven Stoyles to jump him overall as Diogo Francisco now will look to come out of pit road, and it's going to be very marginal between the pair of them in towards 1 and 2. Francisco, I think, will have the better track in through turn number 2. They come out, it'll be even on the run to turn number 3, and that's going to be very frustrating for Francisco, who drops the position then to Francois Bouillon. And Bouillon getting out of pit road here, especially at Montreal here, Ian. Yeah, it is very unique in the fact that you skip turn 1 altogether, but turn 2, coming out of turn 2, do you feel that you got an advantage beyond that outside line?
In general, you should be able to get early on the throttle, but you can't cut it because of the pit exit line. So there's not much advantage. I think you have maybe a bit over speed, but there's not much in it anyways.
And Brian Dwell dives down onto the lane. Picario's being dropped off of the train, and that's crucial because Picario has to stick with Justin Tipton at this stage. Enzo Cantor again down the lane. He's 11 or 12 laps down at this stage. Only 2 drivers out, being Matthew Woollett and Johnny Gawindi in this event. And Greg Sykes going through. Les Bear will be expected to go through in just 1 moment's time. Mick Watson also down onto the lane. Very good drive from him today, Cam.
Yes, Mick Watson started 12th. He's currently running in 6th, though. Obviously, he's going to be dropping well down the order after this pit stop. Mick Watson, he made it 10 laps, not the 11 like we've been seeing. So as Brian Dwell, it looks to me like he is just leaving pit lane right now. So we'll see. Dwell is quite, well, he's not that far behind Philippe Leibert. We might have a bit of a run here as long as Leibert has an issue or two. But they're seeing as they're splitting hairs between 10th to 10th. I have a feeling Leibert is going to be comfortably in the lead for this one. But either way, yeah, Mick Watson, I think actually he might be getting tires. Yes, so not good there. Somebody might have forgot something there. But 24-second pit stop for Mick Watson. So anything, perhaps the gain? Maybe not so much. But alternatively, maybe those tires were completely shot. You don't know. But Watson, he's leaving pit lane. As the rest of the field just sorting themselves out.
That's 4 new bricks on that machine, and I say bricks because it's almost impossible, you'd say, Arian, to run the tread down on those sorts of tyres.
It certainly is. I've never seen them go off. I mean, I've done a lot of laps on these tyres. It's certainly not like in the GT3s we're doing now, or I'm doing now, where it's insane. But, I mean, basically the Skippy has road tyres, and they last... well, like normal road tyres, I guess.
30,000 miles.
Yeah, well, obviously we're running them at a bit lower pressures than you would do in real life. But
29,999 miles then.
Probably, yes.
Yes. That's about the level of area that we're getting. Picario stays out. Tipton stays out. So they're going to go as long as they possibly can. In comes Greg Sykes, though, down to the lane in the 74 machine. His final stop of the day. And he's had a very lonely day of going backwards. And, well, there's going to be no crisscross for him when he does his cha-cha slide cam.
Sure. But either way. Well... I'm still running numbers. Tipton has to come in this time. Basically, this is it. Like for Justin Tipton, he has to come in this time. Though Andrew Picario, he's out and he's going to be on his 12th lap. So unless there's some crazy thing going on,
big vehicle off. That's Diego Francisco there at the final corner. Sorry to cut you off like that, Cam.
You're fine.
That was being way too aggressive there through the final chicane. And they are anti-cut curbs for a reason, Arian, and that's why this Skip Barber is so difficult to drive at times, because you think you can just take so much out of a corner. In reality, you can't. You have to treat it like every other vehicle.
Yeah, certainly do. I mean, since this season, Brian and I have, well, kind of figured out that we run a bit higher setup. I mean, you can't do much in the Skippy setup anyways, but we figure if you run a bit lower spring purge offset, you will hurt your wing less, and that will gain advantage on the long straights. But yeah, they are really fragile. I mean, the slightest touch can upset the suspension, and your race is gone.
Yeah, your race can be gone. Justin Tipton dies on the lane. Precario will follow very much in suit, as Philippe Labert will soon be the man to once again, for the final time you'd feel, re-inherit the race lead, as when he crosses the line to start lap 36, you will have 4 laps to go between now and another race victory. But of course, he's not going to get the points that he maybe would have wanted here today because of the fact that championship was already secured, Cam. But Precario and Tipton in. Now the question is, where do they come out in comparison to the 88, who's now crossing the start-finish line?
Tipton taking on 13.1 gallons of, not gallons, but 13.1 seconds of fuel for running 3 laps. Which is slightly more fuel than I believe he could have ever needed. Same thing for Precario, actually. Actually, where is Precario? Oh, there. No, he actually got out quite a bit ahead than Tipton. He took 9 seconds of fuel. To me, that's a little ridiculous. Probably take 5 seconds, and that would have been more than enough.
So, overfueling, Arjen, is it just a case of that they've forgotten to realise, or forgotten to tell their crew, shall we say, no, I don't need this much fuel, put in less.
Yeah, in the Skippy, you can put in a certain amount. It's 7.9 or 10.9 or 10.8 liters. I mean, in most of the other cars, you can set the specific amount of liters you want. In the Skippy, it's a given amount, and you have to stop fueling by pressing a button. And that's where sometimes if you press it too soon, you might be a little bit worried at the end. And sometimes you run it just too long and you're overfueling.
It is just as simple as that. The battle, though, for the final spots inside the top 10. Adam Blocker versus Carl Dronke. Number 10 in position number 10. Well, talk about famous Canadians with a gimmick of number 10. Ty Dillinger, certainly one of those from the WWE. But Carl Dronke right now, he's hoping to get position number 9. But Adam Blocker is going to be resilient, Cam. He's not going to let him have it very easy.
Alan Blocker's been in the wars pretty much all race long, even overshooting we've seen, and some of the maneuvers. But Blocker, he's happily in the 9th position right now. As far as fueling goes, he's got fuel to the finish, so he is one that is on the, quote, correct pit strategy after starting all the way back in 18th position. So very good running for that number 196. But just got to say here, you got to wonder just exactly how the fuel strategies were coming for the pack that we wanted to possibly see. Greg Seitz, Andrew Precario, you know, those, Justin Tipton, this group. Because obviously they had time to practice, they had time to do the fuel runs. They would have known to take their short stints, and I would have almost suggested to take the short stint first, and I wouldn't be too surprised if Philippe Labert says that that's what he did first. We got to remember, he was one of the first ones in.
He certainly was. We also got a battle, James McCritchley versus Richard Warmingham right now. Warmingham in a 158 fighting for P12 out on circuit. This has been a good debut for the pair of them, Arjen. We haven't seen them too much in the World Cup previous, but on this last race where there's a little bit less pressure on these drivers, this has been good. Both drivers gaining positions.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's good to see new people joining the Skippy. I mean, it's obviously a car in iRacing that's still doing pretty well, I think. I think it's one of the most driven series on the service. In general, it's a pretty easy car to learn to drive. It's hard to drive quick in it though, because you need to get like a specific driving style with it that doesn't work in most of the other cars. But yeah, it's good to see new people joining the league.
It always is, and there will always be an influx of Skippy drivers joining the league, mainly because of the progression of how this series goes, Cam, because it's such an important series in terms of an open wheel driver's development. You kind of can't not run the Skip Barber if you want to become a very good and successful open wheel driver.
I have officially 4 Skip Barber races to my my record, and that is because in order to advance into the next license level, as here goes on the outside of Warmingham, is James McCritchie. McCritchie there, the 157, he has got the pass locked and away, the 158. Hovering behind the 157. Oddly enough, they picked those numbers. Obviously, they must know each other quite a bit more than just that. But either way, for James, looking fairly good right now. Perhaps Richard can make the counterattack this lap. Nope, he'll wait until later up on the track. But yeah, I've got 4 official races marked in. And, well, there you go. Almost a slide for Warmingham. But I promptly, after filling out my MPR requirements, never drove the car again. I haven't regretted it ever since.
You're a classic driver, you camel GT lover.
What happened, and actually it's funny you say that, what happened is I raced the Skip Barbers, and then I was like, all right, no, I can't do this. I went to the Star Mazda at the time, it's now the Pro Mazda, and then I went to the Lotus 79, which is where my career completely fell off. I should not have done that. I should have stayed in the Pro Mazda for years. Picked up speed, but that didn't happen, and now I'm in the booth with you all.
You should have done the Skippy, man.
No.
I mean, it might have taught you a thing or two.
Ooh.
Crash cars.
Oh,
My cars.
It started to get heated here in the commentary booth. Yeah.
No, I love watching these races. Don't get me wrong. I love watching them. These are great. Some of the greatest battles I have ever seen on the iRacing service have been in these Skip Barber cars in this series. But me personally, I can't race the cars.
Well, it's the white flag, though. It's one final lap for the season as the stories, the anecdotes, well, they've all come out here at the circuit of Gilles Villeneuve, but a few constants currently remain the same. It doesn't matter how many titles you can have to your name, how many times you win a race, or how many battles that you have towards the end, as we still have Dronke versus Blocker heading on to the final lap of this event. And, well, it comes down to Blocker versus the driver of Dronke for further back positions. No moves into turn number 1 just yet. Still got McCritchie versus Warmingham. We'll keep an eye on that one later on. But the driver we need to focus on is on this number 2 machine, because, yes, this is Mr. 2K World Cup. Yes, this is the driver who has won race after race after race and has been in almost every single title fight since records began in the 2K World Cup. But there's one thing that Philippe Labert does better than anybody else, and that is when it comes to crunch time, he is always up there in the fight and looking to put himself into the victory lane. It won't be a title this season, as it wasn't last season, because he's found a new rival to his name who sits to the right of me in this commentary booth. But with just 2 corners to go to put the lights and the curtains down on this a fantastic season, you have to say it's been a masterclass of driving. Not necessarily for battling, but certainly a masterclass of driving for Mr. 2K World Cup Philippe Labert. He will go back-to-back and win here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for what will be yet another race win of the season. Race win number 3 overall, and we'll look further back to the battle for P3. Brian Dewell second. Precario holds off Justin Tipton over to the line. Precario with a well-deserved podium at the end of this one, but we're going to look even further back. Blocker is in a scrap and has been contact. McCritchie heavily damaged there down at the hairpin cam, and that was Warmingham trying to go down to the inside and just tagging the rear.
Yeah, not what you want to see right there, but just a little too close. Should have known that McCritchie was going to be taking the apex there, but either way, rest of the field driving through right now. As Philippe Labert, he's pretty happily going to drive into the little off-run going into corner number 3. He was the one that came in first, and he was the one that gets the win. Brian Dewell, he coasted across the line, sputtering on fuel, but he'll come home happily in second. And Angie Precario, very good finish for rounding out our podium.
Yeah, he certainly did a very good job about that, and the final drivers then come across the lines. The battle for P16 not over here. We got the likes 17. Of 17 actually, Andreas Robertson and Edwin Villarino, and Villarino going to go to the outside as they head themselves on the brakes into the final chicane. And well, Villarino, he gets that one all shades of wrong through the final corner and well, he tried. Yeah, I'll give him credit. He tried to go around the outside, but unfortunately that didn't work in his favor as he makes his way across the start-finish line for what is going to be the last time on this season. With Nick Sidgley, the last of the drivers across the line, our official classified results are as follows. Plain sailing for Mr. 2K World Cup. He wins the season with a 9.9 second win over Brian Duell there in second position. Andrew Picario finishes with a very good podium to end off what has been a breakout season for him. Justin Tipton finishes in fourth. Greg Seitz will finish in fifth ahead of Stephen Stoyles. Christopher Cash in seventh position with Francois Boulian, Adam Blocker and Carl Dronke just losing out at the end. And then you got the likes of Richard Warmingham controversially taking 12th position away. The likes of Mark Chorley and Anthony Catt not having the best of days overall. Edwin Viorino tried at the final stage, it didn't work. And James McCritchie, damage on the final lap, drops him back. Only a few retirements today. Diogo Francisco, Hans Hoyer, Enzo Cantor, Johnny Guindi and Matthew Willett here. Stay tuned though, the final post-race show of the season here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live will be next.
The car behind me is my Chili Bowl midget, the one that I won the Chili Bowl with. And what's interesting about that is it's actually the car that iRacing scanned that's going to be available to all the iRacing members out there.
Lights out on what has been a sensational season in many different ways, but one thing always does seem to stay the same. There is always one man who always finds himself somewhere near the top, and it's a race victory, and it's back to back for the man talking to me, or talking with me right now in Mr. 2K World Cup in Philippe Laibert. Philippe, well, that was a pretty plain sailing race for you. The moment Johnny Guindi ran out of fuel was the moment that you just ran off to the hills and said, goodbye, no one's going to touch me.
Well, was that what happened? I don't know what happened to Johnny. All of a sudden he was swearing,
Forgot to pit.
and then he was gone. So what happened?
He forgot to pit.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that made it a lot easier for me, I guess. But even without that, I'm sure I would have won. My strategy was better than his.
Okay, there's confidence from Philippe Laibert for the first time in a while. And even Arian's surprised that that said confidence.
Yeah.
But, well, with that sort of confidence, I take it you're taking the title from him next season.
Of course. Yeah, I won the last 3 races, so I'm on a roll.
Well, there's going to be a lot to be said then, Arian, if you want to defend your title. But Philippe, you know, you've put together another fantastic season, and it's been 10 seasons here of the 2K World Cup. And, you know, RaceSpotTV certainly has an institution now on a Sunday night with the 2K World Cup being always there. And, well, for the next 10 seasons, are you hoping to see even more great names come through, the likes of Sebastian Jobs, maybe Richard Avery's, and, of course, Arian and yourself?
Yes, I hope some of those guys come back, because in the past they started the season and then they had a few good results and then a few bad, and then they just quit because they thought they couldn't become champion. So it's kind of sad that happens, but it would be great to have a season with all the greats of the last 10 seasons and see who's the best.
Oh, that would be fantastic to see. Before we let you go, Philippe, any shout-outs to sponsors you'd like to give for the folks back at TT Racing?
I want to give a shout out to my team, TT Racing, because we had 3 cars in the top 5, and well, with a little bit better strategy, it would have been a 1, 2, 3. Kudos to Brian for splitting us. So, and yeah, I want to thank everyone who participated in the 2K Cup this season. It was a great season, no controversy. Well, just a little bit with my ex-teammate, but that's all forgotten.
Says it so coldly.
But it was all in all, it was a very good season, and I'm sure we'll do even better next season.
Well, we'll certainly see if that happens. Mr. 2K World Cup, Philippe Laibert doing a very good job of things today. Cam, you have found the last man at the Positive Sim Racing Corral. You have found Brian Doyle.
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
How'd the race go?
Well, looks like I got second.
I mean, that's good. I heard. And it's not even like you got second, like it was a crazy lap last pass and people are crashing everywhere. It was just kind of straight up raw pace and pit strategy. It's a longer race, 39 laps here at Montreal. Just kind of take me through how your pre-planning went and the pit stops and everything like that. Because I mean, second place, not a bad day when you've got 8 seconds on everyone else.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I kind of knew coming in that usually the longer races are good for me with the pitting strategy and all that. So I tried to save fuel early on, and I was a little bit concerned because after the first or second stint I was behind everyone, but at the end there it was looking pretty good for me. But I ended up short fueling on my last pit stop a little bit too much, so luckily I had a gap because I had to save fuel, and I ran out just as I crossed the finish line.
No, what you intend to say is that, as planned, the engine ran out of fuel just after crossing the start-finish line, because I'm that good at calculating. That's what you...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah. So, either way, good running at the start was, I don't want to say uncharacteristically clean for the 2K series, because it's not, because it's always typically a pretty clean start, but for Montreal, it was a wonderful start. Just kind of take me through the starting, that first little stint there where you all kind of broke away, and just how y'all managed to make a clean start here at Montreal.
Well, I was kind of surprised at that as well. The hairpins are always tough, and there was a few moments where I had to get on the brakes because the guys were bunching up more than I expected, but that was kind of surprised that we all made it through. I was expecting there to be at least one cart out of the pack ahead getting wrecked, but yeah, once it kind of settled down, I just saved fuel. There was no point trying to pass.
So at final point, you finished 2 positions ahead of Greg Seitz, and you were only 1 point between the two of you. So my mathematical calculations, looks like you're pretty much set for 4th position, unless that's going to bump you above Johnny, who had a complete retirement. But that seemed to me like you're quite a ways away from Gwindy for 3rd overall. But 4th overall, I mean, pretty strong season.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm not too sure. I think he led some laps, so he might get bonus points there. So I keep refreshing the website to see where the standings end up. But I'm pretty pleased with the season.
And of course, you're going to be back for next season?
Of course.
All right, that's what we all want to hear. Anyone that you would like to give a shout out to, sponsors, all that?
Oh, well, I want to shout out to my team, Positive Sim Racing, all our sponsors, and Philippe for running the league. Of course, everyone enjoys it, so it's been really fun.
Yeah, we have a pretty good time with it. So, Brian, thanks so much for hopping in with us, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
That's Brian Dwell, the Everly Cannon. Wait, I have to ask a question. We'll hold up here. When did the Mr. Bean helmet show up? Because I'm trying to think. I can't even remember. You've always had that helmet.
A few seasons. I think it was around the beginning of this year.
I think it was.
Yeah, I found it, and I'm like, oh, people might enjoy that.
Well, we do. So, either way, thanks very much. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.
And Jake, you have the champion Ariane Freita with you. I mean, it's just shocking. He's literally next to you. It's almost like he's been here this whole time.
I know, and well, for Arian, I'm not going to ask you any questions. You won't be racing today, but rather, I'm going to give you an open forum. Have a champion.
Oh,
yes,
boy.
have a champion speech.
I'd rather not. Now, I have to say, I mean, it has been a blast this season and last season as well. I mean, Philippe and I have been close for a few seasons now, a few years actually. I've been away for like half a year in 2016 and came back beginning of 2017. Coming back with one goal. Finally, trying to win the championship, and I finally succeeded. And then doing it back to back is, I mean, awesome, especially against guys like Philippe. I have to say though, I'm shame Seb Job or Miko weren't here. In that regard, I think we might have had a different champion. I mean, in general, I think Miko or Seb, their raw pace is just insane. But yeah, in general, it's been a blast.
Well, it's been very, very nice to see you're driving over the season, Arian, and of course, you got a lot of hungry sharks waiting for you when you get back to the season next time, or this time maybe in 2 weeks or so, or when the new season gets started once again. But unfortunately, that's going to be about all we got time for here on RaceSpotTV, ladies and gentlemen. A massive thanks to all of you who have been watching this one at home, all the drivers, all the teams, and of course the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. Special thanks has to go to Istvan Ballo's Track Cam Packs for Gourmet. Make sure you check them out along with AETBO and Apgeneer, the official graphics engine of RaceSpotTV. Thanks go to And Wern Designs, our official graphics partners here at RaceSpotTV. Special thanks to Simon Grossman for the animations here of our graphics, and Nick for live timing and scoring. Don't forget, Monday Night Skippies is going to be here, and that's going to be very interesting. And of course, week 13 comes along, and we're going to get Rallycross, and we're going to have a lot of fun going up and down and all around. And of course, the World of Outlaws is going to be in town as well. Cam Walsh is going to be there as well. But for the time being, that was Cam Walsh, that was Paul Smith, that was Arian Freighter as well. I'm hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, and it's the Freighters' time to go back to back. 3 in a row? Well, nobody seems to know that one yet. Have a good one.